So 51 ways to use AI in project management. Let's get started. We'll move through 7 categories, okay? Planning and scheduling, risk management, stakeholder communication, meeting management, budget and performance monitoring, team and resource management, and finally, your own learning and career growth as a project manager. 51 use cases, 7 categories, specific tools for every single one. Try not to blink, you might miss one of them. Starting with planning, and the first use case is generating a full work breakdown structure or WBS using ChatGPT. Simply paste your project scope or brief into ChatGPT and ask it to decompose the work into deliverables, phases, and tasks. So what used to take hours of whiteboarding with your team now will take you minutes as a project manager. Now you still need to review and refine it though, but the heavy lifting is done. Definitely a genuine time saving at the start of any project. Use case number 2. Auto-scheduling your project tasks using ClickUp Brain. Feed it your task list, deadlines, dependencies, and team availability. And ClickUp Brain will intelligently schedule everything for you, okay? Dynamically adjusting when priorities shift within a team or within a project. So no more manual Gantt chart updates on MS Project every time something changes in a project. It essentially acts as a smart scheduling engine running in the background, keeping your plan realistic and your team as a project manager aligned without you having to micromanage every single date or deliverable change. Use case number 3, mapping task dependencies and flagging sequencing conflicts using Motion AI. Now, Motion as a platform uses AI not only to visualize your task dependencies, but also proactively flag where sequencing issues could delay your project. So for example, if task B cannot start before task A finishes and task A is running late, Motion catches that conflict before it becomes a problem. Think of it as having an AI project scheduling professional watching your plan around the clock so that you don't have to. There are plenty of tutorial videos on YouTube to learn how to use Motion AI in project management. Use case number 4, drafting your project charter or project initiation documentation using Claude. So provide Claude with your project objectives, key stakeholders, scope boundaries, and constraints, and it will generate a structured professional PID or project initiation documentation draft for you. Now, I have used this myself, and what impresses me most is how well Claude handles nuance and context in longer or detailed documents. So you are not getting a generic template, okay? You are getting a solid first draft that's actually tailored to your project. Refine it and it's ready to go. Moving on to use case number 5, identifying your critical path and exploring schedule compression options using ChatGPT. Input your task list, duration, and dependencies and ask ChatGPT to identify the critical path and suggest where you could fast track or crash the schedule of the tasks. It won't replace dedicated scheduling software like MS Project for sure. However, this kind of an exercise with ChatGPT helps for a quick strategic analysis, or let's say when you need to present options to the leadership fast, okay? So this is remarkably effective and requires no specialist software knowledge. Use case number 6, generating a RACI matrix using Gemini. So paste in your project roles, team members, and list of deliverables or work streams and ask Gemini to map out a RACI, which means responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed people for that task, okay? So for each one of them, now what's particularly useful here is that Gemini is strong at reasoning through organizational structures and flagging where accountability gaps or overlaps of conflicts of interest might exist, okay? So as a project manager, you get a well-structured RACI matrix built in minutes rather than a painful team workshop, okay? Makes sense? Use case number 7, creating a milestone tracker with automated reminders using Notion AI. Set up your project milestones in Notion and let Notion AI help you to build a dynamic tracker that sends automated reminders to owners as the deadlines for those tasks approach. It can also summarize milestone status into a concise update when you need a quick snapshot for a leadership review as well. It's simple, it's clean, and surprisingly powerful, especially if your team is already working within the Notion ecosystem as part of your organizational structure. Right, so planning was just the warm-up, okay? The next 8 use cases on risk management are where projects are saved or, let's say, screwed up. And I guarantee that at least one of these will apply directly to the project you are running right now. So try not to miss a single one. Use case number 8, brainstorming and identifying project risks from your scope document using ChatGPT. So paste in your project brief or scope statement and ask ChatGPT to identify potential risks across people, technology, budget, timeline, and external dependencies. Now, obviously, it won't catch everything, right? Your experience and contextual knowledge still will matter here, okay? However, as a first pass risk identification exercise, it's thorough, it's fast, and a brilliant starting point before your formal risk workshop. And it would help you to cut the time for that risk workshop by more than 50%. Moving on, use case number 9. Scoring risks by probability and impact and generating a structured risk register using Claude. Once you have your risk list, feed it into Claude and ask it to assess each of the risks, assign a probability and an impact score, okay? You can also ask it to calculate a risk rating and format the output as a risk register. Claude handles this with impressive consistency and structure, okay? And I have done it myself and I can vouch for it. So what previously took a risk workshop and a spreadsheet session can now be drafted under 10 minutes or so, okay? So you as a project manager can review it, can validate it, and you are done. Use case number 10, detecting early warning signals from your project data using Microsoft Copilot. So if you are tracking project KPIs or budget burns or schedule variance in Excel or with Microsoft Project, Copilot can analyze that data and flag anomalies or deteriorating trends before they escalate into real problems. Think of it as an early warning radar running across your project data, surfacing patterns that you might not spot manually when you are deep in the day-to-day delivery pressures, okay? Use case number 11, drafting risk mitigation and contingency strategies using ChatGPT. So once your risks are identified and scored, ask ChatGPT to suggest mitigation actions and contingency plans for your top-rated risks. Give it your context, your industry, the type of the project you are doing, and the constraints, right? And the outputs becomes genuinely useful rather than being generic, okay? It's particularly strong at generating multiple strategic options per risk, which gives you as a project manager choices to present that to your project board rather than, let's say, a single one-line answer, okay? Moving on to use case number 12, using Perplexity to research and understand Monte Carlo simulation for schedule and cost risk analysis. Now, Monte Carlo simulation itself requires specialist tools, okay? However, many project managers avoid it simply because they don't understand the methodology, okay? So here you can use Perplexity to get a clear sourced explanation of how Monte Carlo simulation actually works, which tools support it, and how to interpret the outputs. It's an AI as your research tutor, which will help you to close the knowledge gap fast so that you can apply the technique of Monte Carlo simulation in your project scheduling with confidence. Use case number 13, summarizing and categorizing a messy issue log by priority and owner using Claude. So we as project managers all have inherited issue logs, right? That looks like a mishmash of unresolved problems with no clear ownership or prioritization. So you can paste that log into Claude and ask it to categorize issues by type, assign priority levels, flag overdue items, and restructure it into a clean, actionable format. It turns an unmanageable document into something your team can actually work from immediately. Use case number 14, generating lessons learned documentation from retrospective notes using Gemini. So after a project phase or a sprint, you can dump your raw retrospective notes into Gemini, okay? The messy bullet points, the team comments, email summaries, etc., etc., and ask it to structure a formal lessons learned document. Gemini is particularly good at synthesizing multiple inputs and organizing them into themes, okay? The result is a professional document that actually gets filed and referenced rather than usual retrospective sessions that disappears into a shared drive and is never seen again by any one of your team members. Use case number 15. Predicting the likelihood of project delay based on current velocity data using ClickUp Brain. So if you're running an agile or hybrid delivery, ClickUp Brain can analyze your team's task completion, velocity, sprint performance, and workload patterns to predict whether you are on track to hit your milestones. It's not fortune telling for sure, okay? It's really, if you think about it, a pattern recognition applied to your actual project data, okay? And having that predictive insight quite early enough gives you the one thing every project manager needs, right? The time to act before it's too late. Right, so risk management covered. Now let's move on to stakeholder communication. And if you drop out now, you might miss one of the most smart applications of AI to manage your stakeholders, which I'll be honest, you didn't even think of could be done with AI. So use case number 16, building a stakeholder register from a project brief using ChatGPT. So paste in your project description and ask ChatGPT to identify likely stakeholders across internal, external, and regulatory categories, okay? Mapping each one against their interest level, influence, and communication needs. It's a strong starting point, particularly in the early stages of a project when you are still getting your bearings right, okay? So you can add your own contextual knowledge on top of the AI output as a project manager, and your stakeholder register is ready to go. Use case number 17, drafting a tailored stakeholder engagement plan using Claude. Once your stakeholder register is in place, feed it into Claude along with your project objectives and ask it to generate a structured engagement plan with recommended communication frequency, the channel of communication, the tone of communication, and the type of communication for each stakeholder group. So Claude's strength here is its nuance, right? It doesn't produce a one-size-fits-all plan, okay? It reasons through the dynamics between stakeholders and your project context, producing something which is genuinely usable rather than a generic template. Use case number 18, calibrating the tone of your emails and reports for different stakeholder audiences using ChatGPT. So the way you communicate with a project sponsor is fundamentally different from how you would communicate with a contractor or, let's say, a frontline team member, right? So as a project manager, you can paste your draft communication into ChatGPT, tell it who the audience is and what outcome you need, okay? And ask it to adjust the tone accordingly. It's a simple but powerful technique that significantly improves on how your communication land with different set of audiences. Moving on to use case number 19, summarizing long, complex email chains into concise briefing notes using Microsoft Copilot. Now, I have spoken about this in my previous videos, and it remains one of the highest value add by AI, which can be used by project managers. So when your sponsor asks for an update on a project randomly, and there have been, let's say, 40 or 50 emails flying around for 3 or 4 weeks, you can use Copilot to read that entire chain and give you a structured summary in seconds, okay? So if you have organized your emails project by project in Outlook in separate folders, this workflow is genuinely transformative for your daily productivity. And I have made tutorials on this topic already on my channel where I have explained the entire process. Use case number 20, generating a professional escalation email from rough bullet points using Claude. Now, escalation emails are high stakes, right? The wrong tone can damage your relationships. Also, the wrong structure can bury the urgency of that escalation, right? So you can give Claude your bullet points, what the issue is, who is involved, what decision you need, and ask it to draft a clear, professional escalation email calibrated for senior leadership. It gets the right balance between assertiveness and diplomacy, which is often harder to achieve when you are writing an email under pressure yourself. Okay. Use case number 21. Drafting a change communication plan for a sensitive project change using Gemini. So scope changes, budget cuts, timeline shifts, these are often the moments when communication can either build trust or, let's say, destroy it, right? So you can feed the details of your change into Gemini, what's changing, why it's changing, who is getting impacted, and what are the risks of miscommunication, and ask Gemini to draft a structured change communication plan. So Gemini handles the sensitivity of these scenarios quite well, producing a message that is honest, clear, and appropriately framed for each of the audience sets. Use case number 22. Creating a conflict resolution script for a difficult stakeholder conversation using ChatGPT. So we have all been there, right? A tense conversation with a difficult stakeholder that you need to navigate carefully. So you can ask ChatGPT to help you script that conversation. Give it the context, the relationship dynamics, the specific tension points, and the outcome you are aiming for as part of this entire exercise. So it will generate a structured conversational framework with openings, key talking points, anticipated objections, and closing. Okay. Think of it as a rehearsal before the actual performance. And if you wish to, you can use the AI voice mode of ChatGPT to do a mock session as well. Use case number 23, auto-generating weekly project status reports from live project data using Microsoft Copilot. So if your project data lives within the Microsoft ecosystem, i.e. it could be Teams, Planner, MS Project, or SharePoint, Copilot can pull that data together and generate a formatted status report complete with progress against milestones, budget burn, risks, and upcoming actions. Okay. So no more Friday afternoon scramble to pull your project weekly reports together, right? So Copilot handles the aggregation and drafting with you as a project manager, focusing on reviewing and adding the strategic commentary that only you can provide. But as obvious, the heavy lifting will be done by AI. Right. So stakeholder communication sorted. Next up, meeting management. And before you think that this is the boring admin section, please think again, okay? The next 7 use cases will give you back hours every single week, okay? And the hours you will not be wasting anymore if you listen carefully. Let's go. Use case number 24, transcribing meeting recordings in real time using otter.ai. So otter.ai joins your virtual meeting. It can be over Teams, Zoom, or Google Meet, and transcribes everything live, speaker by speaker, as the conversation unfolds, okay? So no more frantic note taking while simultaneously trying to chair a discussion, okay? The full transcript is ready the moment your meeting ends, okay? It's one of those tools that once you start using it, you genuinely cannot imagine going back to the manual note taking, okay? So it's simple, it's accurate, and an immediate productivity win for you as a project manager. Use case number 25, extracting action items, owners, and deadlines from meeting transcripts using Microsoft Copilot. So once your transcript is ready, whether from otter.ai or a Teams recording, feed it into Microsoft Copilot and ask it to extract every action item, and you can also ask it to assign it to the right person and attach a deadline where one was mentioned in the meeting, okay? So what used to take a project support officer or a project coordinator 30 to 40 minutes of careful transcript reading now takes Copilot approximately 30 seconds. Next, use case number 26, generating a structured professional minutes of meeting from raw notes or transcripts using Claude. So Claude is particularly strong at this use case because of how well it handles long unstructured text, okay? So paste in your raw transcript or rough notes, specify the format you need, specify the attendees, the key decisions, the actions and the risks that were raised, and Claude will produce a clean, professionally formatted minutes of meeting that are ready to distribute. Okay. So personally, I have used this workflow as well, and the output and the quality is consistently high, even from messy, free-flowing conversational transcripts. Okay. And this links back to this use case being specifically tied with Claude, because Claude is absolutely brilliant in finding order from chaos. Next, use case number 27, drafting a focused meeting agenda from a project update email using ChatGPT. So before your next project meeting, take the most recent status update email or the progress note and paste it into ChatGPT. Ask it to generate a structured agenda with agenda items, suggested time allocations, and the objective for each item. It will keep your meetings purposeful and time-bound, which is, let's be honest, is something every project team desperately needs. Okay, so fewer rambling meetings and more focused discussions. Use case number 28, logging decisions made during meetings and linking them to project risks or milestones using Notion AI. So decision logging is one of the most underutilized disciplines in project management. Okay. And yet, when something goes wrong, it's the first thing everyone asks for, right? Show us the documented evidence. When was it said? Who said it? What evidence you can prove? What evidence you can furnish as a project manager to support your decision, etc., etc. So use Notion AI to maintain a live decision log, automatically tagging each decision against the relevant project milestone or risk entry. Okay, so it really creates an auditable trail of why choices were made and by whom, on which date it was made, etc., etc. Invaluable when you are facing scrutiny from your project board or senior leadership. Use case number 29, auto drafting follow-up emails after meetings with a clean action summary using Microsoft Copilot. So immediately after a meeting, Copilot can generate a follow-up email summarizing what was discussed, what were decided, and who owns what and by when. Okay, basically a, let's say, RACI matrix. Okay, and it could be formatted and ready to be sent in seconds. Okay, so Copilot here can close the entire loop professionally, and it will ensure that every attendee leaves with complete clarity on the next steps. Okay, so in my experience, the projects that struggle the most with delivery are often the ones where post-meeting follow-up is inconsistent. Okay, and this use case eliminates that problem entirely. Use case number 30, facilitating a structured retrospective session using Gemini as your guide. So you can ask Gemini to generate a set of tailored retrospective prompts based on your project type, team size, and the specific challenges your team had faced during the sprint or the phase. Okay, so it can help you structure the session across, let's say, what went well, what didn't went well, and what we would do differently next time. Okay, but let's say with the prompts which Gemini will provide you, it could be specific, it could be thought-provoking rather than generic. Okay, so it's particularly useful when you are facilitating a retrospective for the first time, or let's say when your team has fallen into the habit of surface level retrospectives that don't really drive any change. Okay, right, so meetings under control. Now we move on to budget and cost monitoring, and this is where stakes even get higher, right? Because nothing ends a project manager's credibility faster than a budget that is out of control. So the next 7 use cases are for you if you don't know them yet as a project manager. Let's get started. Use case number 31, forecasting your project's budget at completion using earned value inputs and ChatGPT. So you can feed ChatGPT with your planned value, earned value, and actual cost, and ask it to calculate your cost performance index, schedule performance index, and estimate at completion. So ChatGPT as an LLM handles the earned value mathematics quite accurately, and more importantly, explains what the numbers mean in plain English. Okay, so that you can walk into a leadership review and articulate your financial position with genuine confidence rather than just presenting numbers. Use case number 32. Analyzing cost variance and schedule variance trends directly from your spreadsheet using Numerous AI. So Numerous AI as a platform is an Excel add-in that allows you to type natural language questions directly into your spreadsheet, okay? So things like which project phases are consistently over budget, or let's say you can ask, show me the cost variance trends across the last 3 months. So it analyzes your data instantly without requiring complex formulas or pivot table configurations, okay? So for project managers who live inside Excel, okay, but aren't spreadsheet specialists per se, this Numerous.ai platform is an absolute game changer for financial performance analysis. Use case number 33, generating a financial performance dashboard narrative from raw KPI data using Microsoft Copilot. So numbers on a dashboard tell one story, okay? However, the narrative behind those numbers might tell a completely different one, right? And that narrative is what your sponsor and project board will actually need to make decisions. So feed your KPI data into Copilot and ask it to generate a concise performance narrative explaining what the numbers indicate, what the trends suggest, and where attention is needed. So it will bridge the gap between raw data and meaningful insight and decision making in minutes. Use case number 34, validating supplier invoices against contract terms and flagging discrepancies using Claude. So paste your contract payment schedule alongside the supplier invoice into Claude and ask it to cross-reference the two. So here Claude can really help you to check milestone completion requirements, payment trigger conditions, and value accuracy. So Claude is quite meticulous with this kind of a structured comparison framework. On complex projects with multiple vendors and varied contract terms, this use case alone can save you significant time and also can help you and protect your project budget from invoicing errors that would otherwise slip through unnoticed. Use case number 35, identifying spend anomalies and cost overrun patterns across project phases using Gemini. So you can upload or paste your project cost data phase by phase and ask Gemini to identify where spending patterns deviate from the baseline plan. Of course, Gemini also needs to know about your baseline plan to do this exercise. So it's particularly effective at spotting recurring overrun patterns, okay, and also the kind of systemic issues that really don't show up in a single reporting period but becomes visible when you look across the full project life cycle. Early identification of these patterns provides you the opportunity to course correct before they compound into serious budget problems. Use case number 36, drafting a cost control report for leadership review using ChatGPT. So provide ChatGPT with your current budget position, key variances, root cause analysis, and proposed corrective actions, okay? So even if you provide that information in rough bullet points and ask it to structure it a formal cost control report, it will do a very good job at it, okay? It will organize your inputs into a professional, logically sequenced document with an executive summary, detailed variance analysis, and recommended actions. Exactly the kind of report that would typically take a project manager 2 or 3 hours at the least to write properly now will take you less than 30 minutes. Moving on, use case number 37, translating complex earned value data into plain English and stakeholder summaries using Claude. See, earned value management or earned value metrics are quite powerful, okay? However, most stakeholders outside of project management have no idea of what a CPI of 0.87 actually means for their project, right? So you can feed your earned value data into Claude and ask it to produce a plain English summary suitable for non-technical stakeholders, okay? So Claude translates the numbers into a clear narrative explaining what is on track, what is at risk, and what decisions needs to be made. exactly the kind of communication that builds genuine stakeholder confidence and improves your ability to engage stakeholders as a wider group. Right, so financials covered. Next, team and resource management. And if you don't get this one right, whatever you have done so far will fail for sure. Okay, so how AI can help you here? Use case number 38. Building a capability plan by mapping team availability against project demand using Motion AI. So feed Motion with your team's availability, current workload, current skills, and upcoming project tasks, okay? And it will intelligently map who has capacity, who has the skill, and when that task can be allocated. So it dynamically rebalances as priorities shift, giving you a real-time view of resource utilization. So no more spreadsheet-based capacity planning that becomes outdated the moment something changes on your project and needs a manual intervention. Use case number 39, identifying skill gaps in your project team against a capability framework using ChatGPT. So you can paste in your team's skill matrix or skill profile alongside the capability requirements of your project and ask ChatGPT to identify the gaps. So it will definitely flag on the skills where you might need to add that skill set and suggest whether the gap needs a hiring, needs a training, or it will need external outsourcing to a contractor. A practical first pass analysis that informs your resource strategy quite early before those gaps really become risks in your project delivery. Moving on, use case number 40, analyzing task completion patterns to identify team performance trends using ClickUp Brain. So ClickUp Brain monitors your team's velocity, task completion rates, and deadline adherence over time, okay? Surfacing patterns that will indicate where productivity is strong and where it is deteriorating. It gives project managers an objective, data-driven view of team performance, removing the guesswork from those difficult conversations about delivery accountability. Moving on, use case number 41, generating onboarding documentation for new team members joining mid-project using Notion AI. So mid-project onboarding is always disruptive, right? So you can use Notion AI here to quickly generate a structured onboarding pack, which can include project overview, key contacts, current status, open risks, and immediate priorities. So new members in your team can get up to speed faster, your disruption is minimized, and you as a project manager avoid spending hours writing a documentation that should have existed already. Use case number 42, prioritizing a task backlog by value, urgency, and resource availability using Claude. So paste your backlog into Claude with context on your constraints and delivery priorities, and ask it to sequence the tasks using a clear prioritization logic. So Claude is able to reason through competing priorities methodically and provides you with a structured, justifiable backlog to work with. Okay, so this is particularly useful before sprint planning sessions or when your team is quite overwhelmed and it needs clarity on what to tackle first. Use case number 43, balancing workloads across team members to prevent burnout using Motion. So Motion AI continuously monitors individual workloads and flags when any team member is being over allocated with tasks, okay? So it then suggests rebalancing options, redistributing tasks to team members with available capacity. So burnout within team members is one of the biggest hidden risks on any project, right? So having an AI proactively monitoring workload distribution means that you are managing that risk systematically rather than only noticing it when someone hands in their notice or someone calls off sick. Use case number 44, drafting a performance feedback summary for a team member using ChatGPT. So provide ChatGPT with your observations, specific examples, and the behavior or the outcome you are trying to address, okay? And ask it to structure a balanced, professional feedback summary. It helps you strike the right tone, right? Constructive, yet specific and fair, okay? Which is particularly valuable when the feedback involves sensitive performance concerns that need to be communicated carefully, sensibly, and of course documented properly. Moving on to the final category, and this one is quite personal, okay? Because everything we have covered so far only matters if you as a person is growing alongside the AI tools that you are using, right? So the next 7 use cases are about your project management career, your learning, and making sure you are better than 99% of the project managers out there. Use case number 45. Using Google AI Studio as your personal project management tutor to master tools like Microsoft Project or advanced Excel such as Power BI. So Google AI Studio can actually see your screen via screen sharing and guide you real time, okay? It's like having a personal coach sitting right next to you, accelerating your learning curve from months to weeks without expensive formal training courses. Use case number 46. Researching and discovering relevant PDU opportunities for your PMP or PMI ACP or any PMI certification renewal using Perplexity. Maintaining your PMI certification requires 60 or 30 or 40 PDUs every 2 or 3 years, and finding that quality relevant opportunities of PDO accruals takes time, right? So here you can ask Perplexity to search for current PDU eligible courses, webinars, and activities. It could be free as well, and it might be aligned to your specific development goals. So it pulls from live sourced authentic results, saving you hours of manual research across the entire ecosystem of PMI or project management to find free or low-cost PDU accrual opportunities. Use case number 47. Preparing for the PMP exam using PMI's own AI-powered mock simulator built on ChatGPT, which is called PMI Infinity. Most PMP aspirants don't even know that this tool exists, right? And it's completely free with a PMI account. I have made an entire tutorial video on this tool. So what it does is really it generates scenario-based practice questions, provides detailed answer explanations, and it really adapts to your responses, okay? So if you are currently preparing for the PMP exam, this should be one of your go-to preparation tools, okay? And the best part about this tool is its AI or learning capability, where it tries to adjust the difficulty level of a question based on your response. Use case number 48, building and refining your AI prompting skills through structured practice using ChatGPT. So AI is only as good as the input you give to it, okay? And of course, and this is why prompting an AI platform is a skill that genuinely needs to be developed. So as a project manager, you need to practice techniques such as chain of thought prompting, contextual prompting, self-critique prompting, etc., etc., okay? So the PMs who will stand apart in the next 5 or 10 years won't be the ones who just use AI, right? And the difference between using AI as run-of-the-mill and using exceptionally well is the skill of prompting, okay? As simple as that. How efficiently and how effectively you are able to prompt the AI platform to get exactly what you want from it. Use case number 49. Summarizing and extracting key insights from lengthy PMI or PMBOK documents using Notebook LM. So you can upload the PMBOK guide or PMI practice guides or any lengthy reference document into Notebook LM and ask it questions in a conversational manner, okay? So you can ask it for specific queries, request summaries of particular sections, or you can ask it to compare core concepts across the documents of the standards. So for PMP exam candidates who are working through quite, let's say, overwhelming materials of PMI, this is genuinely one of the most powerful study tools available right now. Use case number 50, creating visually engaging project management presentations and training decks using Gamma AI. So you can describe your presentation topic and structure to Gamma AI and ask it to generate a professionally designed, visually polished deck, okay? And it can do that task in minutes for you. So for project managers who regularly deliver stakeholder presentations, team briefings, or internal trainings, Gamma eliminates the hours spent wrestling with PowerPoint formatting and design, right? So your focus as a trainer should be on the content and the message, okay? So Gamma will handle how the overall PPT to support it looks like. And finally, use case number 51, staying current with AI trends in project management through curated research using Perplexity. So the AI landscape is moving fast, right? Faster than any newsletter or course that can keep up with it, okay? So here you can use Perplexity regularly to search for the latest developments, new tools, and emerging best practices in AI-driven project management. Build it into your weekly routine. You can install the Perplexity app on your mobile as well, and even 15 minutes of research per day will help you to stay consistently ahead of the curve in a space that is changing every single month. I have the Perplexity app installed on my mobile as well, and I absolutely love doing this research exercise on Perplexity. So that was the 51 ways to use AI in project management, right? So you can start with what's relevant to you right now and build it from there. So if this video was useful, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.